Alright, so today we're going to be talking about tools. Now, the house that I've lived in for the last 6 years was built in 1920. Okay, so a lot of this stuff is 100 years old, 100 plus years old. And so there was a lot of stuff that just aged and I had to update. But also there's 100 years worth of DIYers that have put in just enough work to get the thing to operate. Not operate correctly, just operate, if you know what I mean. And so there have been times where I've pulled out an outlet. There's all these wires back there, and they all just have wing nuts. And I don't know what any of them are for. There's been a lot of things that I've taken apart, and it was just easier for me to just redo the whole thing than it was to try to figure out what the past DIYers had done. And so these are the tools that have helped me out the most. A lot of these tools I've had for a really long time, and I really appreciate each and every one of them. So let's jump in to number one. Alright, so number one is going to be a tape measure. Get yourself a high quality tape measure because this thing is going to come in handy in so many different ways. There's an old saying that says measure twice, cut once. Because when you have something, you want to make sure that you cut it exactly how you want it. Because if you cut it too short, you can't put material back, right? You only get one shot to cut it correctly. And also, if you have a 2-foot board and you're trying to put it into two 1-foot sections and you're 1 inch off either way, well, now you don't have two equal sized boards anymore, right? And so measure twice, cut once. But another saying that I've learned to appreciate, I might have come up with on my own, is measure twice, buy once. Okay, because there's been so many times where Caroline finds a bookshelf or a nightstand or a dresser or something that's affordable and it looks nice and whatever reason she thinks that we have to have it. First thing I always ask her is, how big is it? Right? There's been so many times where she wants to put it here, but it's this big, right? And I'm like, this isn't gonna fit in that area. Or she thinks it's humongous, and then I ask her how big it is, and it's just this tiny little thing, right? And it prevents us from buying a bunch of stuff that we don't have any use for. You know what I mean? And if we do need something, like when we did buy our entertainment center, I measured out the TV, we have speakers for surround sound. I measured out exactly what we needed, exactly what would fit our TV, our speakers and everything, and we bought something that was exactly that size. And so it's a very simple way of getting exactly what you want and not having to buy stuff and then trying to figure out how to make it work, right? If you can measure it, you know exactly where it's going to be. And another trick that I like to do is I'll get masking tape or like painter's tape, and if it's 12 feet by 4 feet, I'll tape it out. I'll tape out a 12 foot by 4 foot right on the floor, you know what I mean? And so then I can see how it's going to fit. I can see how much room is going to be between everything. Because if I buy a nightstand that's 5 foot by 3 foot, and all of a sudden our bed doesn't quite fit, right? It's all the way up against the wall and I can't get in on my side of the bed because it just doesn't fit. You know what I mean? I can see it, I can visualize it, I can put furniture, we can rearrange around where we want that thing. And it all starts with this tape measure. So this thing has saved me so much money. It has made my life so much easier. I highly recommend a high quality tape measure. Alright, so the second tool is kind of a cheat, and that's my Leatherman Wave. Now, a lot of people don't consider a multi-tool an actual tool because it's a multi-tool. It's more of a pocket knife than it is a real heavy use item. And I disagree. I use this thing all the time. When I moved into this house, Caroline and I bought this house together. We moved in and it was December 1st, meaning we had to deal with moving, we had to deal with the house problems, we had to deal with the holidays, we had to deal with the new year. We didn't have time for anything, honestly, like nothing at all. But all the problems in here, like the outlets in this room, didn't work. The Leatherman is what I had, and so that's what I used to fix the outlets in this room. I installed a ceiling fan with this Leatherman. I fixed the range on our oven with this Leatherman. This is all I had for that first few months, and this thing did the job, and I would be lost without it. I EDC this, I carry it with me every day, so it's also replaced headlights, it's also taken stuff off of fish house so that we can work on it better. I mean, this thing is a real tool. I use it as a real tool, and this thing has saved me so many times. I just can't even I can't even talk about it enough. This thing is so reliable. It done everything I've needed it to do. It has done. I can always figure out a way to make anything happen with this Leatherman. It's what it feels like. I feel like I can accomplish anything with this multi-tool, and I really, really think this is a high quality tool that everyone should have. Alright, so number 3 is going to be a hammer. Now, the Estwing hammers are very controversial because they are super durable, they're super good, but they're horrible. If you had to frame a house and you used an Estwing hammer, that hammer would work exactly the same on the first nail as the last nail. If you pounded every single nail in that house with an Estwing hammer, it could handle it. Problem is, your elbow couldn't. Because this thing is all metal, it is very durable. I've never seen one of these break. They are very, very sturdy. The ones that do break are usually because people are prying on stuff that they shouldn't be prying on. But these things are highly, highly durable. But all the vibration and all of the impact goes straight into your wrist and your elbow, and after using it for a couple hours, your arm starts to really hurt. My arm starts to really hurt. I know there's a lot of construction workers that have gotten used to it and they've built up the arm strength to use these for a lot longer than I can. But a good hammer goes a long way. I like the framing hammer. I don't like the construction hammers with the curled end, because this way I can, like I said, pry stuff, but don't pry too much. I can pry stuff up. I can use it to chisel away at things. I can use it to hang pictures. I can use it to bang on pipes, bang on different things. I can listen to hear where the studs are. I've used this thing a ton. I've used it for a lot of different things. I use it in the house. I use it in the garage. I use it when I'm fixing vehicles. It's just great to have a good, sturdy, reliable hammer that you can count on. And so I like the Estwing hammers. Alright, so number 4 is a MultiUse screwdriver. Now, I don't know if that's what it's called, but it's a 6-in-1 screwdriver. This one is my favorite because it's the one that I got. If you want to hear the story about how I got this screwdriver, give this video a thumbs up. But it's a 6-in-1, so it's a number 1 Phillips and then flathead, and then with a 1/4-inch drive, and then on this side you have a number 2 Phillips with a flathead and a 3/8-inch bit, and so you can use it for whatever you need to use it for. And this thing gets used all of the time. It's put together most of the furniture inside this house. When my son gets toys and the batteries die, I use this to get the batteries in and out. I mean, this thing gets used all the time. I never realized how important a little screwdriver like this would be. If an outlet stops working or something, this is what I use to get it apart. It's just crazy how much I use a screwdriver. It's not something that I would have thought of being super important, but once I started owning a home and needing it, I can't believe how much I actually do use a multi-use screwdriver. Alright, so number 5 is a channel locks. Now, I went to school for marine and small engines, and so I have Matco tools. That's the brand that I chose to complete my schooling. So this is a Matco brand, but you don't need a Matco one. You can get a channel locks one. They're much cheaper. But a channel locks, I use this as a pliers. I use this for tightening things. I use this for plumbing. I use this for so many things. This is all I had for a long time. And when I used it, I replaced sinks, I replaced faucets, I mean, there's so many. The actual pipe, I've replaced pipe with it. I've done so much with just this vice, or not the vice grips, but the channel locks. I mean, I couldn't imagine my life if I didn't have it. It's just so handy, and because it's so adjustable and can get so big, you can use it on almost anything. So I highly recommend a good pair of channel locks. Alright, so number 6 is going to be a vice grip. I accidentally mentioned it in the last one. And the vice grips isn't going to be used for what you think it's going to be used for. A lot of people use it on stubborn bolts, stubborn nuts and bolts. What I use it for is, like I said in the beginning of the video, I have a 100-year-old house full of 100 years of DIYers, and there is a lot of stripped screws, things that I can't get apart because the screw won't come out, and being able to have that vice grips and just pinch on there and screw it out by hand has really saved me from having to drill into things that I don't want to drill into. Because what ends up happening is you try to drill out the screw and then you slip or something, you screw up the threads that the screw is into, or you mess up the wall or the outlet or whatever it is, the outlet box. And so having a vice grips and being able to clamp onto that screw and twist it out by hand, it saved me a lot of money. This thing has come in handy. It's not something that I use all the time, but when I do use it, I am so thankful that I have it. So a good vice grips can go a long way. Alright, so number 7 is going to be electrical testers. I have 2 different ones here. I have the Klein tools. This is just a light, so you turn it on. It's green for go. You put it into something, and if the electricity is on, it will light up green and beep at you to let you know that it's hot. And this has saved me from electrocuting myself so many times. When I installed that ceiling fan with the Leatherman, I didn't have this, so it'll beep when I turn it off. And so I did not have this when I installed the ceiling fan. And of course, the electrical box, you know, I flipped the switch, I flipped the breaker, turning off all the power to the dining room, and guess what? It was labeled wrong, and I shocked myself, and it was not fun, and I went out and I bought this thing right away. The problem with it is it's not the most reliable. It works really well. It works probably 95% of the time, but when it comes to outlets, there's, for some reason, it just doesn't quite work, especially on GFCI outlets. It doesn't quite work every single time, and I don't really trust it on GFCI outlets. And so I have this one as well, and I don't know what brand this one is. I'll leave it in the description box down below. But this is easy. You just plug it into an outlet, and then there's 3 little lights, and as long as the 2 orange ones turn on, you know the outlet's good. I always check the top and the bottom. When I moved into this house, the top of all my outlets in this room worked and the bottoms didn't. It was the weirdest thing, and so I had to go through and test all of them. I didn't have this at the time. I only had this, and this got me through, but this would have been a lot nicer. It also has a GFCI tester, and so you can put it in there, push the button, and then it'll trip the GFCI, and so you can make sure that they're working correctly. And so having these would have saved me from getting electrocuted in the first place, and have saved me from getting electrocuted ever since. And so I really appreciate these 2 things. I don't know which one I would recommend more, so that's why I'm including both of them. But making sure that you're safe is key to anything, and these have kept me extremely safe, and I appreciate them very much. Alright, so number 8 is going to be a wire strippers. Now, this thing, I didn't have this for a long time. I just used my Leatherman Wave. My Leatherman Wave has a wire cutter, and so I would just cut it a little bit and then strip it that way, and it worked. It got the job done. But once I got this, because I owned it, it was just at my parents' place. Once I got it back and I was able to use it, it makes your life so much easier to just, it's 12 gauge wire, put it on 12, strip it. You don't have to worry about accidentally cutting the wire, especially when you're dealing with outlets that already have very short pigtails coming out of them, because people have been cutting them for 100 years. So you don't got much to work with, and if you accidentally cut it with this, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And so being able to do this and not worry about it, having the stripper and just stripping them without having to worry, has really made my life a lot easier and more convenient. and I highly recommend if you're going to be working with outlets or ceiling fans or light fixtures or anything around your house that involves electricity, this tool right here is going to really help you maintain the electrical that's inside your walls already so that you don't have to rerun a new wire. So I highly recommend a wire stripper. Alright, so number 9 is going to be a good level. Now, most recently I used this level in this little torpedo level. This one you're going to use a lot for hanging pictures and different things, making sure that they're level, or art or windows or whatever it is you're doing. But I use this one for the pitch of my drain. I had to replace the drain from the kitchen sink all the way to the main drain, and so I had to make sure that I had the proper pitch to drain properly. And this thing has come in so handy. I feel like this is another one of those tools that, one, people overlook. They don't think of how important it is. And number 2, I feel like I use it more than everybody else. Because my house is 100 years old, nothing is level. I swear, nothing is level. If you put this on the ground, you will be able to find at least one spot that's level, but it won't be touching the floor on this side or this side. You know what I mean? There's so many dips and curves and everything inside this house. And I remember when I was messing with the refrigerator, so I used a level to install the washer and dryer to make sure that they were level and working properly, and that went pretty well. But when I was doing my refrigerator, I would put this on the side and it would be tilted a little bit. And so I would, the feet, you would screw them out to adjust everything. So I would spin it 3 times in the front and 3 times in the back to get it to be level, right? And then I would do that, and I couldn't get it level. I was trying to make sure that I was doing everything exactly the same on both sides, both the front and the back. And then I finally was like, how is this not working? And I put this on the floor instead of the refrigerator. And yeah, the floor had dips and everything in it. And so then I had to redo everything, and I had to make sure that I was adjusting to the floor and not the refrigerator. You know what I mean? And so it's all those little things that you never think about. There's a dip on the back right, so I had to screw that one way down to get it to the floor, and then I had to make it so it wasn't moving anymore. Once I had it rocking, it wasn't rocking or rolling anymore. That's when I started. I was like, okay, I can't move them equally until I get them both on the floor. This one's going to go down further because it's in a hole. This one's going to be way up as high as it goes because it's on a hill, you know. And so then once I was there, then I could move them equally and get it level. But the 4 legs on my fridge are not the same in any of the corners. They're all at different spots and screwed in or out. But a level helped me figure that out. And a level helps make sure that everything runs properly. It helps make sure that everything's built correctly. Good level just makes life a lot easier. Alright, so number 10 is a work light. Now, this work light is the best. And so I've needed a work light for a really long time. I used to use headlamps. Caroline and I would both have a headlamp, and that's what we would use. And the thing that I hate about headlamps is if they're too loose, they're constantly sliding down and you're adjusting them, or they're too tight and they're right up and you're constantly adjusting. The other thing is I'll go to talk to Caroline and I'll shine it right in her face, or she'll shine it right in my face, and it's just not ideal. The other thing is I was working on a faucet, so I was underneath the kitchen sink and I was trying to line everything up and the batteries died. So I'm trying to hold everything, and then all of a sudden I'm in the pitch black holding everything, and I had to let go, start all over, and it really irritated me. And so I was looking for a work light that did not run on batteries and that I could plug in and guarantee that I have light. Problem is a lot of the work lights only had like a 2 to 3 foot cord, meaning every single time I used it, I would have to run out, get an extension cord, run the extension cord, use the light, and then wrap up the extension cord, bring it back out to the garage. It was just a pain, right? I didn't want to deal with that, and I couldn't find something that worked well with me. And then I found this. This is a Steelman Pro. I will try to link to it down below. I don't know if I'll be able to because I bought this at Fleet Farm. And this is battery powered. And you're like, what? I thought you hated battery power. I do, but the difference is it comes with a 15-foot charging cable. Okay? 15 feet. And you can have it plugged in and use it at the same time. And so it's so big, it's actually tangled up, causing a mess. 15 feet, right? That is huge. And so I can plug it in and I can use it without having to get the extension cord. I can use it without the cord at all. I can use it just off the battery power. It's 1,000 lumens, which is almost too bright. I almost never use it on high. I almost always use it on low. But this thing will light up a whole room. You know what I mean? So if it's pitch black in here because I had to break the fuse to work on an outlet or a ceiling fan or something, this will light up the whole entire room. When I'm working underneath the sink, it lights up everything. And I don't have to worry about the headlight slipping around. I don't have to worry about the headlight blinding anyone. I just put it where I need it and then it just stays there. And this thing is awesome. I like this thing so much. Having that 15-foot cord means that I rarely have to get an extension cord. Even if I'm working in this room, I can plug in over here into the dining room and run the light into the living room. And so I really like this light. It's probably one of my new favorite things. The other thing I like about it is it's waterproof. It's not completely waterproof, it's splash proof, but every time it gets dirty and messed up and gross, I just wash it. I just run it under the sink, wash it up. It's no problem whatsoever. This thing is awesome. I highly recommend it. It's my new favorite thing. I use it all the time. And yeah, a work light just makes your life so much easier. Being able to see when you're working on your electrical, being able to see when you're underneath the sink, being able to, right now it's pitch black outside, I can still trip a breaker and I can light up a whole room. And I really like this light. Alright, so a couple honorable mentions. A caulking gun. I use this not a lot. I don't use it a lot, but it does come in handy. Especially when you'll find gaps between your windows sometimes. You'll find gaps here. Filling in those gaps. When I redid the sink, I had to put a seal around the sink. There's just so many times where having a good caulk gun comes in handy for sealing up things and doing different stuff. And so I highly recommend that. And then the other thing that I highly recommend is GFCI outlets and outlet covers. Always make sure to buy a cover. I used to. I'd buy one of these and then I'd install it and the old plate doesn't work because you need the wide opening. So then I'd have to run back to the store, buy a new plate. So try to remember to buy both at the same time. But what this does is it allows you to, if you have a 2-prong outlet without the third ground wire, you can put one of these on there and it makes it safe, right? And so this is a nice workaround for old wiring. And so I've used a lot of these. The previous owners, however far back it goes, didn't have these where they were supposed to be, and so I got all of them. I got them in the bathroom, I got them in the kitchen, I got them everywhere they need to be, and these are they make your house so much safer. These will trip just like a breaker will, but they will do it a lot sooner than a breaker. And so GFCI outlets are your best friend. I use them everywhere you're supposed to use them. You can't use them all the time, but when you have those 2-prong outlets and you hook up one of these, they work very well and they're a lot safer than just wiring in a normal outlet. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you can teach me something in that comment section down below. Let me know what you think. What are some tools that you find very valuable? I'm always eager to learn from you guys, and I can't wait to see you on my next video.